What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Slam Sessions, live again for the first time in a long time. Hope everybody out there is doing well. So, I know it's been a while, so decided that we'll start from the top in case you guys hadn't noticed. Um, I have been uploading weekly right here, and I've been uploading you guys. I've been talking to you guys about the toy room that I've been doing, and I've been posting videos for the past. I think now it's been 6 weeks in a row now. So I'm getting used to the idea of going live, and I'm sorry, well, not going live, but doing more videos and stuff like that. So it's been a fun experience doing that. But in case you guys hadn't noticed, this week I actually had some sort of an editing issue. True Sinister, what's up, my man? Nice to see you here. How are you, buddy? So I had a really big editing issue. I exported my entire file from my Adobe, and it came back, and all the video was black. So I was like, all right, you know what? These things happen, right? Sometimes, the mistakes are made. I just have to re-export the file and just re-upload it real quick. Nope. I went back, and my entire Adobe Premiere thing was still blank. All the graphics worked, all the audio worked, but every part of the video was just a black screen. I don't know what happened in the export process or prior to the export process that this happened, but I went to go look to see how the video was doing. Maybe about like a half an hour after I had it uploaded, and I went, why is there no video? So I felt like I kind of owed you guys a little bit because I didn't get a chance to kind of get that out on time, but I did upload it again today. So it is up there. The video is there. So it's for the past 6 weeks, I've had something up there for you guys. And I'm going to continue doing more of the toy room stuff because it's been fun. I'm having fun editing it now, and I'm having fun, doing my, showing off my collection and stuff like that. Couple of things are going on, in my personal life where I'm, I have my apartment's going to be renovated on. I might be home a little bit more. So that's good or a bad thing. I'm not even sure at this point, but I'm going to be back home, and during that process, I'm going to start. I'm going to start doing more renovations. So hopefully, I'll have a little bit more in terms of updates for the toy room. Over the next couple of weeks. But I will say I am actually behind. Hey, what's up? Penny Powers in the house, man. Nice to see you. But yeah, I might have some more, might have some more stuff for you. So we'll see. Bobby, what's going on, man? Nice to see you here, buddy. So now that we're starting to get a couple more people in, we're going to start getting into the idea and the real reason why we're here. Last night, I'm sorry, I'm so used to pay-per-views or premium live events. A few things I have to get used to saying because it's different now, right? I'm used to the premium live events being on a Sunday night. I am so glad they're on Saturday nights. Even though I went out this past Saturday, I was out. I came home. I picked up from the Cody match on. I went back. I rewatched Ricochet and Logan Paul on Sunday afternoon. But the big story coming out of SummerSlam, you would assume, with all the really cool things that happened, one of the bigger stories would be that Io Sky is the women's champion, and she cashed in her Money in the Bank. You would think that it was the longest ever women's match in the history of SummerSlam, as Asuka. Yeah, True Sinister, same. But Asuka, Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair went over 20 minutes in their triple threat match before Io Sky cashed in her Money in the Bank. Logan Paul and Ricochet put on a clinic. Gunther and Drew McIntyre put on another hard-hitting banger. But no, the biggest story that comes out, as always, is Bloodline. Now, the one thing that I will say is, in terms of Roman Reigns main event matches, I was entertained throughout this match, but I can see how some other people may actually look at it and say it was a little plotting and a little boring. Fine. If that's your taste, that's totally fine. It's understandable. Not everybody's going to like the same things. Not everybody's going to be excited about the same things. Not everybody's going to like the same matches for the same reasons. I happen to be thoroughly entertained throughout. I don't remember touching my phone for most of SummerSlam, which is a big, indicator that I'm enjoying what I'm watching. Because if I'm not looking to go and play a game on my phone or look up to see what's going on Twitter, that means I'm enjoying the show. I tweeted a couple times throughout. Big, fan of them pushing LA Knight, making him win that battle royal. Now he is a spokesman for Slim Jim, which I think is a very big spot for LA Knight. I think it shows that WWE has a long-term plan for him, even though a lot of people were saying, oh my God, we had to wait until this to get him pushed. We had to wait until that. There was a plan in place. We just needed to get to the point where they can start instituting it. And I think WWE is starting that right now. So True Sinister, yeah. You know what? Thank you for getting me right back on track. Because that's the reason why we're here. Jey Uso, yeah, isn't that crazy? It was SummerSlam at Becky Lynch where where it happened too. Very crazy that Bianca has that bad of a track record now at SummerSlam. Charlotte, I guess they're going to go with this idea where she's still technically undefeated because she didn't lose the fall. Bianca rolled up Asuka to get the win. So I think that's where they're going with that. But it's funny that, Bianca has she's got pretty bad luck at SummerSlam. But, the main reason why we're here is the Bloodline. Last night in the main event, we saw Jimmy Uso make a surprise return, super kick his brother Jay, cost him the WWE Championship, the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship, to be exact. And the discourse on Twitter was, as oddly toxic as I would have expected, but maybe not as much as I would have expected. Here's the thing. We'll start getting into a couple of things before we dig deep into this. I will say this. Since I haven't been doing these, since I really haven't been, going live often, and that shows with, the amount of people that I would expect to be here. I knew this wasn't going to be a big, Jimmy Bay, what's up, everybody? That's my co-host every Sunday night. This coming Sunday, hopefully I'll be back in time to be joining him, and we'll be doing another show. Do yourselves a favor. Remember that name, click on it, go like and subscribe, so you can catch us every Sunday. So, one of the big things that, I've realized in the time that I haven't been doing these streams that often is that there is a large subsection of the internet wrestling fan that's actually been entertained by what WWE has been doing. We've been seeing a lot of positivity with the Bloodline story over, the past couple of months. Now, a lot of that started with Sami Zayn. And credit where credit is due. Sami Zayn injected just a completely different element into the Bloodline and gave them a shot in the arm that they didn't have prior. Were the stories still good? Yes. Were they, were they as whole or as complete as they are now? Not even in the slightest. The introduction of Sami and then Sami becoming a part of that family and then there being an internal issue within the family has been what the story has been since Sami Zayn's left the Bloodline. So Sami Zayn being an integral part of that story really made the Bloodline story step up, from where it already was. And prior to Sami, it was good, but it was mostly Roman, just being challenged by outsiders trying to claim their way to the throne. That's what they want. We wanted to see guys like Seth Rollins and Edge and Daniel Bryan and Cesaro. We wanted to see them get to the top of the mountain. Roman Reigns was, the only world champion for a very long period of time in WWE. With that being, the case, we got to a point where the WWE is now in a spot that they can, I guess the best way to put it is that they're in a spot where they can kind of dictate what they put on TV because the wrestling fans seem to have put their trust in the WWE and their creative, which is a great thing for WWE. It's about time WWE has gotten some respect from this, minority but loud vocal minority, version of Twitter fan base, or wrestling fan base. They finally gained a little bit of respect, from it. Maybe it was Vince stepping down, maybe it's Triple H taking over. Whatever the case may be, there seemed to be a lot of respect coming from the fans to the WWE, and it's a great sign. Now, the other thing that came out of SummerSlam, I'm sorry, we're talking about SummerSlam. What we got out of SummerSlam was the same reaction that we kind of got a little bit after Montreal and Sami Zayn in Elimination Chamber, but a large number of people had the reaction that they had, post WrestleMania. Mohammed, I'm so glad you made it, man. Great to see you here. Well, there we go. That is a great point, actually. Wow, true sister. I actually didn't even realize that I said that. That's a great call, and it's true. It is true. That was, and here we are. We're almost there to to 40. So I could be right. So anyway, so in terms of what's going on with with the WWE is that now they have the more of the that's where I was. So after WrestleMania, a lot of people were really upset with the WWE. A lot of people were saying that Cody should have won. So it's a perfect time to bring up Cody, because Cody, at WrestleMania 39, it seemed like the right move. It's one of those things where a lot of people are looking at it and going, well, this is the logical step in the story. Roman's had the championship for almost 3 years, or over 3 years at that point. Roman is this perpetual champion. We need to inject this new lifeblood into this championship. WWE had a different idea, and WWE decided they were going to introduce a new championship. They were going to put Cody Rhodes on the back burner, build him up, get him ready for WrestleMania 40 to have that big moment, and then we start off, on the era of Cody. That seems to be where WWE is going. But in the meantime, the whole idea is that it's, the whole idea of it is that, we're telling this internal story with the struggle between the bloodline. So we're going to start here. So the first thing I keep hearing is that, and this is the reason why why I'm here. There's a lot of things that have been floating around online that have been pissing me off, and I'm just going to kind of vent about them here. So the first thing is that everybody keeps saying Cody Rhodes could have won the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. He could have won the championship at WrestleMania, and the Bloodline saga could have continued without Roman being the heavyweight champion. First things first, that is absolutely untrue. If you believe that that's the case, the story isn't nearly as interesting. One, if Cody does win this title, right? And this is just the first thing that no one's thinking, because nobody's using their head. If Cody wins the championship and they're still going to be telling the story, this is still going to be the hottest story in pro wrestling. So what you're telling me is that you wanted Cody to win the only world championship and then have that world championship not defended in the main event of a pay-per-view, because the Roman story needs to go on last, because it's the thing that's drawing everybody in. So what you're telling me is that you want to handicap your champion from day one by saying, thank you for winning our championship. You can have the main event of every pay-per-view that Roman Reigns still isn't on, because even without the championship, Roman Reigns is still the person we're going to put our focal point behind throughout this entire angle. You're just setting yourselves up to get mad and red in the face that they're having main events on pay-per-views, and Cody Rhodes isn't the person who's main eventing those pay-per-views. We've already seen it with the World Heavyweight Championship. People were very, very upset with what happened on the night, I believe it was Night of Champions. That's right, Night of Champions, when Seth Rollins and Balor started the night off instead of being the main event. People were like, this championship isn't going to mean anything. Now, all of a sudden, nobody seems to think that the championship doesn't mean anything. It's fine. It's accepted. Like I said it was going to be. Everybody was just going to go, oh, it's a world championship, and that's fine. The reason, Jimmy, you're not even here, and you're still just finishing my sentences. It's amazing. Muhammad, I'm going to address all that in a couple minutes. Just wanted to let you know. Henny, look, I get it. Some people are, some people aren't. I think that's where they're going. I think it's going to be great. I think that they built Cody up the right way. But if you're not a Cody guy, you're not a Cody guy. But Jimmy just laid this out perfect in the comments. Roman maintains his stronghold as head of the table because he holds that title. that says he's the head of the WWE Universe. Without it, he's not that guy. And Cody won the top title without ever facing adversity. Now, the adversity thing, people being crazy, is 100% true. The adversity thing is another thing, because if Cody did win that championship, it's the repeat of John Cena and Roman Reigns. They walk in, they get into the main event, they stay there, and they're there forever, and then they hold the championship, and people are like, we don't like them anymore. They're shoving them down our throats, which is the stupidest freaking thing I've ever heard. They're shoving him down our throat. Nobody is force-feeding you anything. If you don't like it, turn the channel. No one's forcing anything upon you. Like, I hate that analogy. It's the worst thing ever. No one's ever shoved down your throats. And if they are, then every champion that we've ever had that had mega drawing power was shoved down our throats. And that should be a good thing, because if people are paying to see them, then that's what we want. We want more of that. That's what the fan base wants. So yes, feed us, in the words of Ryback, feed me more. Now, Roman Reigns is, so that's the first thing. If Cody, we can't tell this story without Roman being the head of the table. Roman Reigns has to be the heavyweight champion of the world. He has to be, because if he loses, then everything falls apart. There's no reason why Solo, Jimmy, Jay, or even Paul Heyman actually sit there and follow around Roman Reigns at this point. What are they following around? They're following around the loser. If Jimmy and Jay lost their titles and Roman lost his, they can be just as mad at Roman as Roman would be at them. And why would they take that crap from Roman? There's no reason for Jimmy, Jay, or Solo to side with Roman. Even if Paul Heyman convinces Solo that that's the right move, why? What are they clinging to? And then the story wouldn't be an internal struggle. The story would be, Roman lost his title. We need to do everything to get the championship back onto Roman. So no matter what, the story still has to revolve around the title, because Roman needs that title to be the head of the table. So first and foremost, no, if Roman Reigns lost the heavyweight championship at WrestleMania, this story absolutely has no more legs. You cannot tell it. There's no way to do so. The second part, Muhammad, I'm going to get to this now. A lot of people were complaining. Why on earth is Jimmy turning his back on Jay? It's too early to tell that part of the story. Why are we doing all of that? It doesn't even make sense. Why would Jimmy even be doing it? First of all, it's a cliffhanger. If they explained it to you at SummerSlam, why are you going to tune into SmackDown? It's called a cliffhanger. That's one. Two, look, I've been seeing a lot of other things about the main event of SummerSlam, saying that it's the weakest of Roman's title reign. Other people were saying that there were mentions on WWE television that there was supposed to be no outside interference. Now, that's something that I mentioned a couple of weeks ago on the Positively Awesome podcast with Jimmy and Tidy. I said, hey, if the tribal combat means that no one's allowed to interfere, they can't interact, they can't fight before then, that's a cool stipulation. They went away from it the next week. I get that they said it, but sometimes things change. When you watch a television show, you're telling me that the continuity is always completely crisp and nothing ever changes week to week? Were you a Full House fan? Because Jesse Katsopoulos' last name was Cochran in the first season. In the first season of Entourage, Ari talks about cheating on his wife all the time when he never cheats on his wife throughout the entire series. They also say that Vince and Drama share the same dad, not the same mom. I mean, in Friends, there was the whole big storyline is that Ross was a virgin until he lost his virginity to Carol, his first wife. Yet they make a joke in like the later seasons that he has sex with the cleaning lady in college. Continuity sometimes gets broken. And in pro wrestling, sometimes they go away from these stipulations because their thought process is, this is the way we're going to do it. And then they went, oh, damn, no. We have to have Jimmy interfere somehow. We can't stick to that stipulation. We're going to change things. First of all, welcome. Second of all, thank you for that, because that's beautifully said. The scene was planted when Roman told Jay, you only became main event Jay when Jimmy got hurt. The other part of it, if you notice during this one of these segments where they were talking, during the Bloodline stuff, Roman had said to Jay Uso, oh, well, you want to be head of the table. And remember, Jimmy said, I don't want to be head of the table. Then Jay said, I don't want to be head of the table either. You can just give it to Solo because neither of us want it. And then Jay gets attacked and he goes down, and a mere couple of weeks later, Jay is the person challenging Roman to be head of the table when he literally stood next to his brother and said, hey, I don't want to be head of the table. Why is he challenging for it if he doesn't want to be head of the table? Be the champion all you want, but why would you want to be head of the table? Why would you take that away from Jimmy? The other part of this, Muhammad, that maybe you missed, when Jimmy and Jay decided that they were going to side against Roman, you did bring up the fact it was Jimmy who turned his back on Roman Reigns. Jimmy absolutely was the first person to turn his back on Roman. Now, when they were talking about, the idea of Jay being, leaving. Oh, Fall, I'm going to get to that. When we talked about Jay leaving the Bloodline, Roman brought up, when we said that Jay Uso is the right-hand man, the only person who had a problem with it was your brother Jimmy. And Jimmy admitted, yep, I did. I said that. That shows it right there. Jimmy doesn't want this for Jay. He wants it for himself. Why is it Jay? Why is the concentration on him? What happened to me? And that's exactly where we got to. The main event of SummerSlam, it wasn't Jimmy turning his back, realigning himself with Roman. It was Jimmy costing Jay Uso the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, here's my comparison, and stick with me. I know you guys are have watched wrestling for a little bit of a longer term, so I know you guys have been around longer. WrestleMania 25. I believe it's 25. I might have my numbers mixed up, but you'll get there when where I'm going. Shawn Michaels lost to The Undertaker the year prior. He's trying to get The Undertaker back into the main event spot. He loses the Royal Rumble, and then the only way he can get a shot, he can't get a shot at the world champion, The Undertaker, at this point. So the only way for him to get revenge on Undertaker is if Undertaker is no longer the champion. So in in Elimination Chamber, he comes through the ring, he super kicks The Undertaker, Chris Jericho wins the championship. Shawn Michaels didn't help Chris Jericho win the championship. Shawn Michaels cost The Undertaker the championship. Harry Flynn, hey, yo, what's up, man? That's the story that they're telling with Jimmy Uso and Jay Uso right now. Jimmy Uso didn't side with Roman Reigns. Jimmy Uso cost his brother Jay. It just so happened that when he cost his brother Jay, Roman Reigns reaped the benefits of it. Jimmy never turned. Jimmy didn't realign with Roman. Jimmy isn't cool with Roman and Solo. Jimmy's got beef with everybody. And I think that's eventually where we're going to get it. We might go at one point. We might get to a point where we have a fatal four-way for the WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship with all people in the Bloodline at odds with each other. True Sinister, you brought it up, in the comments. People are distracted to notice that we're already teasing Roman and Solo having issues. They teased that heavy at SummerSlam. Solo just sitting there pointing to his ribs. You know what I mean? Like, it's all that stuff that we're seeing in these little small spots. And that's the thing. People are saying, "Oh, it's going at a slow pace. The match wasn't as fast. It wasn't as hard hitting." It's because they're telling a story in between. That's the point. They're selling the moves, they're selling the brutality, and they're telling a story in those in-between moments. Solo Sikoa, getting speared by Roman and then getting up in Roman's face about it and almost not helping Roman at that point. That's a big story to tell. And we might get to the Harry Flynn, great minds think alike, Harry. Oh, there you go. When Kevin came out at this year's Elimination Chamber, he didn't reunite with Sami yet. That's a great point. It wasn't about being friends with Sami. It was about, costing the Bloodline. Rye Blue, hello, how are you? So that's where we're at. If you're not following the story, then it's not going to make sense. But they've been teasing for a very long time that Jimmy Uso has been very, very jealous of Jay Uso. He's main event Jay. He's the right-hand man. Who's Jimmy? He's just the background character in the story. He's the other half of the greatest tag team of all time. But without being in the greatest tag team of all time, who's Jimmy? He's lost in the shuffle. And that's why Jimmy is immediately thinking, if I don't cost my brother this championship, I no longer exist. I'm not going to go back and take Roman Reigns' abuse. I'm not going to try to sever Solo from Roman and Paul Heyman. It's a lost cause. We try to do that. Strengthen numbers. Join us. Come to our side. 3-on-1. We have the family power. We can turn our backs. We can take over this tribal kingdom. The three of us can rule. But that didn't work. So why would it work if Jimmy tried to do it now? Jimmy's only cause, his only way, the only way he makes anything work is if he costs his brother the championship. Because now it's not Jimmy and Jay versus Solo and Roman. It's Jimmy versus Jay versus Roman. And then eventually could be versus Solo. You know, that's another, well, so you know, that's another good point. You know, that can go both ways. You know, I think that there's a point where Jay could have, you know, remember when Jimmy walked in, Jimmy was defiant. Jimmy didn't want to join the Bloodline immediately. Jimmy came in, he wore that nobody's bitch shirt for a while. He was not siding with Roman. He was always cool with Jay. He wasn't cool with Roman. Why are we answering to him? Why is he running the table? Why is he calling the shots? It was Jay who brought him in. Jay convinced him. Jay was the holdout again. Sami Zayn joins the Bloodline. Jimmy Uso's ecstatic. All about it. Because Jimmy saw it for what it was. This guy's funny. He's fun to be around. But the first time, that we have the chance to just throw somebody in front of a grenade, we're going to make Sammy dive on it for us. Jimmy knew what was going on. But as dissension starts to take apart, Jimmy now took a side. And all along, this whole time, Jay is the soldier. Anything for Roman. When they turned it back on Sammy, Jimmy made the choice that he thought everybody was going to make. But instead, Jay walks out. There's dissension there. And Jay eventually comes back, right? I mean, that's what happens. The Bloodline reunites. Even after they lose the championships. It's, we finally see that, that these guys are together the whole time. Maybe some friction, but they are blood. They're brothers. And then Jay goes off and does this. Because once again, it's main event Jay Uso. And Jimmy decides, I can't take that anymore. This story has been going since day one. And if you can't see that, you are not paying attention. And it's not my fault that you need your hand held throughout this entire story. The most funny thing, they should be, True Citizen, they should be. Harry, I don't know how they're going to book this. It's going to be, they got to have Jimmy, you got to have Jimmy explain himself first. So here's the thing. You're either right, or I think that the loudest people, the people who are complaining the loudest, are the people who aren't even watching. So they're going from PLE to PLE. Because let's face it, all the PLEs have been hits under Triple H. Maybe this one may have been, if this is the worst premium live event under Triple H, this is a hell of a PLE to be the worst. Because it was still really, really good. And that's my thing. I think these people aren't watching weekly. So they're not seeing the little things that are going on, the subtle nods in the story. They're just seeing what's happening at the PLEs and going, this is boring. I don't understand it. I don't get it. I guarantee those are the ones who aren't watching weekly or aren't paying attention. So those are a couple of things that have been really bothering me. And the other thing, this is dragged on too long. Why are we still doing this? Why are they still telling it? I don't know. Maybe look at the fact that they're selling out arenas everywhere they go. Maybe it's because, I don't know, they're making the most money they've ever had. Maybe it's because they're selling the most revenue to ad revenue than they've ever had before. They're selling the most merchandise. I just don't understand why you would even think that you would stop something that's being proven to be a draw. And it's not just a draw to, normal, core hardcore wrestling fans. We're reaching out to other fans who haven't watched, because we're getting 3 million people to watch SmackDown, and the ratings had been in the toilet. They were at 1.5 at points a couple of years ago. They've gained almost 1.5 million viewers with this story. Why would you stop now? Paul Heyman said at the press conference, bottom of the third inning. I believe it. Do I think it's going to go on as long as everybody is claiming? I don't think so. And now here's the other thing. I talked earlier about how it would have made no sense for Roman to lose the championship for this story to continue. When Roman eventually does lose the championship, they can now tell that whole other side of that story. They still have that. It's still there. They didn't exhaust it by doing it now. They told a whole other story, got your way up to that, and then if he loses at WrestleMania 40, there's still the bloodline fallout from it. That's the story that you wanted them to tell right now. We would be in that. Instead, we still have to look forward to that after WrestleMania 40. There are so many reasons why this story is continuing. And if you're a hardcore fan who doesn't have the patience to continually watch this every week, that's on you. Stop watching. I don't give a crap. But don't come online every single day now since SummerSlam and bitch and moan and complain like you did every single day after Sami Zayn didn't win the championship, and every single day after Cody Rhodes didn't win the championship, and you said this story is dead, and then all of a sudden they reinvigorated the story. Because remember, post-WrestleMania, all people were doing was ragging on it. This should have ended already. This is over. It's done. We don't want this anymore. And then it became cinema, the most intriguing storyline of all time. Can't believe that what they're doing with this. How amazing is it that even after Sami Zayn left, even after Cody lost, they still are able to tell this story, and they're still killing it. This is the same reaction that you had after WrestleMania. Sometimes there are going to be bumps in the road. Every story can't be all peaks. They have to valley a little bit so that you can get to the next peak. You got to go downhill a little bit to get yourself to an even higher hill. That's the way storytelling works. And WWE isn't going to sit there and submit to 5,000 angry wrestling fans on Twitter because they can't see the big picture, when WWE is not only seeing the big picture, but seeing more money and more business than they've ever seen in the history of this company. Highest grossing PLEs month after month after month. Henny, believe me, if you were still on that app, it would drive you crazy. And you know what, Fall, you're right. There is a lot about, and Rye Blue as well. There is these AEW, fanboys who are consistently trying to talk negatively about WWE. If that's what your life is, it's a really sad life, because we remember, look, we were on the internet long before. Andre is, my buddy Andre is here. Love you to death, buddy. Thank you for being here. We've been fans. We've been friends since high school. We've been fans of wrestling, for our entire lives. We just saw, we've seen the evolution of this. We've been through this before. This is the way these fans act when they don't get what they want. And there were a lot of wrestling fans who were just negative WWE fans. That's what they were. They just watched wrestling to hate on WWE and tell everybody else to watch other things. And AEW came around and they found their place where they can focus all their energy on. And instead of being positive AEW fans and talking positively about their programming, they can never, ever criticize their programming. And then on top of that, all they do is criticize WWE. When if you're not watching it and you don't like it, why are you getting mad if other people do? People have different tastes than you do. When people go to the movie theaters, like I wasn't hearing people like from Oppenheimer going raiding into the Barbie movie and going, "Why are you watching this? This is a stupid movie about Barbie. Why wouldn't you watch something about our nation's history?" Like, could you imagine that? That's what wrestling fans do online. It's the most ludicrous thing I've ever heard in my entire life. The only argument for why Jay should, yeah, and Fall, I completely agree. That is the only. There is an argument to be made, and if Jimmy's still here, Jimmy Bebe is one of my favorite fantasy bookers of all time, and he even said it. He said that there is a story to be told with Jay winning, and it is a great story. It really is, but that's not the story that they were ready to tell. Well, I guess figure out how to scroll here because there was a couple of things I wanted to bring up. Let's see. People always forget that Heyman's loyalty was questioned at some point in the story. Yeah, that's another big, plot in the story. Heyman's loyalty being, brought up by Jay. Jay always being the hothead. You can even like Harry's saying, Jimmy withhold why he's doing this. We don't even. What if we don't get an answer on Friday? What if he keeps withholding it? So you have to keep coming back to see why Jimmy did what he did. There's a lot of things that they can do. This is what Dave was getting around in a recent stream. Pro wrestling is the only art form where fans actually think they can do better job creating content. Yes. It's 100% true. So look, here's the thing. You guys, look, some of you guys might be a little bit newer. Some of you guys know me, really well. I'm not going to sit here and dump on AEW. I think that them doing the big business at All In is huge. I don't like the fact that that they were like a couple weeks out and didn't announce any matches for it. I thought that was really poor because you still have to sell the pay-per-view. You sold the tickets. That's great. But you still have to sell the pay-per-view. People there are gonna be people who just buy because they hear that it's gonna be historic and it's gonna be one of the biggest attended wrestling events in the history of the world. Yes, you will get people that are gonna buy off that buzz, but it's to that other that other point. You still have to sell it to the people at home. So I wasn't happy about that, but they're rectifying that now, and that's good. We're getting a build. I'm happy about that, but I'm not going to dump on AEW. I think AEW is great. I think what they did with All In is amazing. I think it's fantastic for the entire pro wrestling business. I happen to not be the biggest AEW fan. I'm just not. It's not my favorite. I'm a WWE guy. I've been a WWE guy my entire life. Even during the times, the only company that's ever really swayed my allegiance was ECW. And if I look back at it, I think the only reason why I liked ECW so much is just because it was just giving me something that I wasn't seeing in WWE, but I still really liked WWE more than ECW. I just liked what ECW was giving me that I wasn't getting in WWE. And then WWE gave it to me after they bought out ECW because almost everything was a hardcore match, during the Attitude Era at points. And Harry, look, there are a lot of people that say that wrestling's, wrestling is their first love. That's the reason why they're so attached to it. Look, pro wrestling is probably the first thing I ever fell in love with. If it wasn't pro wrestling, it was the New York Yankees. That was it. Like those are my things. I absolutely loved, growing up. I loved the four things. I think that if you want to talk about the four pillars, my four pillars growing up were pro wrestling, baseball, Ninja Turtles, and the Ghostbusters. That was my life as a kid. That's what I grew up on. So I was raised on WWE, and WWE was one of the first things that I could watch on repeat because I had VHS tapes from my dad. It's there's just absolutely no. It's astounding how many people can have these experiences and stuff like that, but use them to divide people. Like that's a great thing. That's something that I can say. Hey, that's one of the first things I ever fell in love with. That should be a bonding experience for wrestling fans. And instead, it's almost used as a badge to rip other people apart. Like, it's okay for them to not like the same things you like about wrestling. So True Standard, so that whole thing, I like the idea because Punk never lost the championship. So I'm okay with Punk doing what he's doing. And I think that's going to lead to some interesting stuff with him and MJF in the future. I'm very interested to see where that goes. Right, and Fall, I agree. I'm so glad that AEW's around. You know, I appreciate it. And if I really do want to watch like really hotly contested, fast paced matches, I watch AEW and I'm fulfilled. You know, yeah, pro wrestling, no, you know, in a similar vein, right, Blue? I agree. Sports entertainment is, I agree, Fall. Sports entertainment to me is just more fun. And Andre, you're 100% right. Look, you know, Roman as a babyface was not booked incredibly well. And he wasn't even booked that strong. If you really look back at it, like Cena was booked really strong and got like, you know, and got booed through it. You know, Roman wasn't even billed that strong. Like, you know, like he didn't win the championship that much. Seth was the first person to win it. He won it and lost it, you know, fairly quickly a couple of times. Roman wasn't like, you know, this dominant babyface. His booking was terrible as a babyface. So this run has been, you know, has made Roman into the star that he should have been this whole time. And True Sinister, yeah, sometimes I agree that that's the way it looks for AEW, and that works for some people. It doesn't work for me, but hey, that's you know, that is what it is. Oh man. There you go. Well, so it's funny actually. My older sister's LJNs were my first wrestling figures, and then finally, you know, I got into the Hasbros when they came out, and that was my life growing up. And I love that the Hasbros were very similar in scale to like a lot of other figures at the time. Like Hasbros, maybe they were a little bit shorter, but like they fit in with like the Ghostbuster figures and the Turtle figures and Dick Tracy and I'm trying to think of other guys. There were some Masters of the Universe figures that were in that same, you know, 3 3/4 scale. The Star Wars figures, like WWE figures were almost in the same scale. You know, they were like big cartoony versions of them, but they were in the same scale as a lot of those figures back then. So I think it's really fun to you know, it was fun growing up on that. I'm gonna do one of these days. I'm gonna do a full on. Okay, so you caught me off guard with your most recent question. It just made me. I can go off on that for days. I'll get to you on that fall, but yeah. Wherever I was, I don't even remember where I was going with that. That thought just completely left my mind. But yeah, I mean, look, growing up with those. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. I wanted to do a big stream about like me growing up and like my wrestling figure and my figure collecting and stuff like that. So True Sinister, I was aware of ECW because of WWE. Actually, I was aware of ECW because of wrestling magazines, and then I became more aware of it because of WWE. But yeah, I mean, you're definitely not the only one. Them being featured on WWE Monday Night Raw was, you know, a jumping off point for a lot of wrestling fans to get into ECW. And Andre, yeah, the retros, and then all these other retro figures that are coming out that aren't Mattel based, they're gonna drive me nuts. Oh, and Jax. I mean, Jax was my favorite wrestling figure era of all time. I had the most like. My Fig Fed was off the charts, you know, during the Attitude Era. I'm sorry, during the Jax era. Vince Russo. All right, we got like 15 minutes. I'm going to be on for like another 15 minutes, so I'm not going to try to hit this for 15 minutes, but I will say this, Paul. You and I think very similarly. I think that the best structure for a professional wrestling show ever was the Vince Russo structure. You can sit there and say you didn't like what Vince Russo booked. You didn't like how he booked things. You didn't like the crash, you know, style of booking. You didn't like, you know, the weekly, you know, how are we gonna top this booking? That's fine. I get it. That's not for everybody. What I will say is that the structure of a Vince Russo pro wrestling show has always been the best structure for a professional wrestling television show ever. Open hot, keep going, plant seeds throughout, keep a very steady flow throughout the entire show of little things. And WWE's bringing that back under Triple H, by the way. We see it with the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day are very much doing this. There are story arcs that are happening in between segments with the Judgment Day, you know, thrown out throughout the the Monday Night Raw. I absolutely love that kind of storytelling. Give me a thread throughout the entire show. I loved when the shows would open. Earlier today, Vince McMahon arrived and he cuts like a promo on his way through. Raw's War intro. We come back. We're live. We're in the ring. Vince comes out. He cuts his promo. Austin comes out, interrupts. Or Austin comes out, cuts his promo. Vince interrupts. That was the structure for Raw almost every week, and it worked because you brought the hottest act in the company out first to get everybody there and interested and keeping a thread throughout the entire show. And Judgment Day is the perfect act to do it with. Judgment Day, the weeks where Judgment Day starts off Raw, I think are the best weeks that Raw, of Monday Night Raw. I think that we've seen, a lot of things. By the way, Jimmy, I just caught that comment that you just said. Absolutely. It should have been what the Summer of Punk should have been in WWE. Muhammad, thank you for being here, man. Thank you. I'm glad you were able to join for a little bit. And yeah, in a way, Jimmy, look, in a way, Dom's the hottest heel in pro wrestling right now. I don't care, like Don Callis got up there for a little bit. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Don Callis got up there for a little bit, but it's Dom. It's Dom, and Dom can't even talk. Logan Paul even said he wants to be the heel on the level of Dom Mysterio because Dom has been killing it so much. So that's my thing. You start off hot. So same thing, Harry. I think Finn should have won too. I thought the match was great. I hated the ending. I thought it was just that chance for Finn to finally win. Man, I was so excited for him. You want to talk about the thing I'm most upset about coming out of SummerSlam? Everybody's upset about this Bloodline story. That's what seemingly everybody's on Twitter bitching about is the Bloodline story. I'm upset that my boy Finn Balor lost. Hurt me. See, Harry, here's the thing. To me, it wasn't too many because WWE doesn't do that all the time. I feel like this was the match where you were going to have a lot of false finishes. This is like their third match too. I like that they're kicking out of each other's finishers. I like that they have to use different ways to try to beat each other because they know what's coming. They've been in that spot. They've been hit with those moves. They know what it takes to kick out of it now. This was the right match to do it in. Any other match, if this was their first match, I would have been, I get you. But to get back to what I was saying before, the Vince Russo structure of a wrestling show, I think, is the best wrestling structure that there is. I don't know why they stepped away from it for such a long time in WWE. The only thing I like, I don't want to say better, but the only thing that to me is comparable is Collision. I love that Collision opens every week with, the guys who are going to wrestle, cutting a small, 10 to 20 second promo. And that's how we started off. It starts us off. It tells me where we're going to go. It tells me what we're going to see tonight. I love that. Where are the Good Brothers? Where is the tag division? The Good Brothers were on SmackDown last week. And the tag division, yeah, man, it's in a little bit of a flux right now. Kevin Owens is not 100%. He's not cleared to wrestle. I think that hurts it. I think the Street Profits coming back now have, really that's going to put some energy in the tag division. I think them being not just the same Street Profits anymore and getting an evolution in their character, it's going to be a really big step in the right direction for the tag division. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more. So here's the thing. The tag division's been highlighted. We've been seeing the Viking Raiders versus Alpha Academy. We've been seeing the Judgment Day, being used as a tag team. We've been seeing, now, we're starting to get the LWO a little bit more involved. We're starting to get, the Good Brothers were on SmackDown this week. They had they had a match too. We're starting to see more tag teams get a little bit more of a chance. I think that after SummerSlam, we'll see more. And Fa, I think you're right. And I think that I say it all the time. Dave is, the king of making this statement. And I echo it all the time. The best way to, showcase pro wrestling is a mix of work rate and telling good stories. I think SmackDown has been a really good show to do that. I think Collision has been an excellent show to do that. I think Collision further storylines and, everything that they put on there makes sense and it has its spot and it has its place and it should be there and they're putting on good matches. I love Collision. In case anybody hasn't realized it, I can't stop raving about it. I love Collision. But yeah, they did. The WWE, stepped away and they restructured it. I don't know if it was about the work rate stuff, because that was all under Vince. Vince decided that after a while he wasn't going to, do that anymore. I think he thought they needed to change. But look, in terms of it, if it's maybe at a point, maybe it was a little bit broken, so maybe they did feel like they needed fixing. But that was the best story, best way to tell a story. Harry, that's the thing. Some people might think that too. I think that was a great jumping off one for LA Knight. Yeah, I think it's perfect for him. I think we're going to get LA Knight to be a big fixture on SmackDown every week. And then the Battle Royal was great. And it was, look, people were like, they could have took that off for Trish and Becky. Let me tell you something. I am totally okay with the fact that they gave everybody a long amount of time at that show to tell all the stories that they needed to tell, and it still was a long show. Imagine if Becky and Trish was on that. Imagine. It would have been such a long show. It would have been past midnight that the show would have ended. It might have ended past midnight, as it was. The benefit of WWE being able to be on Peacock is that they don't have to stick to a strict time schedule for their PLEs anymore. And you could jam as much as you could in like AEW does, but I like that WWE gives this some time to breathe. And Triple H put up another good point. You forget there's 52 weeks of television WWE writers have to come up with. Having Becky versus Trish in 2 weeks alleviates so much stress off of those writers to have to fill that 45 minutes of a show that's going to be dedicated to them. It's a big thing. A lot of people don't realize that, there's a lot that come from it, that comes, into writing shows. We got like 7 minutes left. I'm going to get going at around 7 o'clock and order my food. I am starving. Just say so. Look, all right, I'll address that real quick. And then I wanted to get into something else, and now I completely slipped my mind. So whatever it was, I guess it wasn't that important, right? Shayna and Ronda, look, I get it. That it wasn't for everybody. That's fine. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool for what it was. I think it would have been better as a wrestling match. I think that, the MMA stip took away from it a little bit. I think it would have been better as a wrestling match. I can make that. I can concede that. I'm trying to think of what Tristan, I would love to see that. Also, I would love to see the Punko against somebody versus the Elite. I think that they're all going to be together at a show soon. They're all going to be on the same show. So, things have to happen eventually. That eventually they need to work together. That just goes beyond without saying, right? They need to work together. Trying to think of what I was getting at before. We were talking about LA Knight winning the Battle Royal. We were talking about Logan Paul versus Ricochet, by the way. Unbelievable. Oh, that's where I was going to go. I finally got it. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of the injury thing at all either, Jimmy. That wasn't. I thought that was too much. I like that Ronda threw around the referees and stuff like that, but I thought that was a little bit too far. I did like that she worked over her arm enough that Shayna had to use her glove and her teeth to, to do that. True Senator, remind me about what that was, and then I'll try to see. But real quick, the other complaint I saw about SummerSlam was there were excuse me, my inner Mark voice. Hold on, I need to grab something to drink. Give me a second. I left my drink over here. Yes, it is a Smart Mark Sterling magnet above my head. Oh, Diesel. Sure, I'll get into that real quick. You know what? I'll do that real quick. And then I'll get to my point about SummerSlam. I think at that time, Brett was so over. I don't think people really wanted a change from somebody like Brett. I think WWE was very dead set on finding their next Hulk Hogan without having somebody who looked like Hulk Hogan. And Diesel didn't look like Hulk Hogan, but I think that they built up Brett enough. And I think a lot of people got a little upset that here comes this other guy walking in and taking over this spot from a guy that we've watched grow up, before our eyes. I liked Diesel as a kid. He certainly hit with me, but I can understand why adults, weren't too crazy. Like if I was a wrestling fan, if I was a Mark wrestling fan, like some of these adults were back in the day, right? If I'm, watching every single week and I'm looking for, little things and I'm paying for the Wrestling Observer back then because there is no internet, I'm not going to like Diesel because Brett was the guy that we watched grow up. And here comes this other guy from this other place and he just took over, in a year, I think that's what how a lot of people felt when it came to that. So if you're of that age, a lot of people stopped watching because you were like, they're really putting Bret Hart out to pasture already. Like, he just got over. He beat Ric Flair. Like, this is great. I thought we had something here. And then, boom, Diesel comes in. I think that's the reason why. So real quick, we got a couple more minutes left. I just want to make this point about SummerSlam. The other big complaint that I got from a lot of people saying why they think SummerSlam this year didn't hit, why it wasn't as good of a show, was that, well, there were no surprise returns. Buddy, if you have to go into a show, because last year there were surprise returns, if you have to go into a show and say, the only way I'll enjoy this show, this television show that I'm going to watch, that I'm going to dedicate almost 4.5 hours of my life to, the only way I'm going to do that, the only way I'm going to enjoy it is if somebody returns. Why are you watching wrestling? Versus, why are you watching? You're not watching because of intrigue or story or anything like that. You just want to pop. And guess what? Jimmy Uso technically was a return. There's your pop if you wanted a return. How about a lot of the other complaint was there wasn't, people didn't use the word returns, they used surprises. There weren't any surprises. Io Sky cashing in Money in the Bank briefcase isn't a surprise. Like, damn, man. Like, what are you expecting? And this is the thing. I've heard so many people say things about AEW. Like, the one bad thing about AEW being so damn good is that every time AEW has a mediocre show, people sit there and say, that was the worst show I've ever seen. That's what SummerSlam is suffering from. The PLEs have hit so good for so long that if we have one that might not be up to that caliber, maybe slightly below it, it's the worst thing ever and we're complaining about it. WWE has set a precedent. They are killing it every week. They're killing it every month. They're giving us some of the best storytelling we've gotten in wrestling history. People are sitting there saying, if you're dedicating this much time to the Bloodline, how could you do that? Imagine if during the Attitude Era, we were sitting there going, man, I love Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon, but I can use less of it on my television. Like, are you mad? Man, like, look, I loved guys back in the Attitude Era like Al Snow and the Road Dogg and X-Pac, and I liked, Too Cold Scorpio, and I liked, I'm trying to think of other, draws and guys like that. I really did, but if they weren't on Raw, I didn't get mad that they weren't on Raw. Steve Blackman, thank you, there's a great one. I love those guys, but if Austin and McMahon needed more time, give it to Austin and McMahon. Because that's where the money's going. That's where the draw is. Right now, the Bloodline is a draw. Roman Reigns is a draw. Rob Scotty, thank you for being here. Yeah, people are never satisfied, man. Like, these wrestling fans do nothing else but complain. And that's all they're ever going to do. If we imagine we complained this much as kids during the Attitude Era, imagine we got mad. Man, this is all good that we get Vince versus Austin and all these people, up at the top intertwining and stuff like that. But why isn't Droz getting a shot at the main event? He's got all the tools to make it. Be like during the Ruthless Aggression Era when you had Brock and Kurt Angle putting on like clinics in the main event. How come Billy Kidman isn't getting a shot at being a main eventer? He was always my favorite in WCW. Like, I'm not trying to, call some of these guys, and especially LA Knight's been one of the most vocal about that. I'm not trying to call LA Knight, Droz or Billy Kidman. He deserves to be in the main event. But sometimes you got to temper your expectations to understand that some of these guys who are big names and big draws are going to get more TV time because they deserve it, because they've earned it, because they're earning it, both, through merchandise and, they're earning it through ratings and they're earning it through revenue. Um, there you go. Imagine, look, and Chris Jericho is my favorite wrestler in WCW. But even I knew that he wasn't the main event guy. You put the NWO on last. Chris Jericho's not going to be the guy that's going to beat all the NWO. He was fun to watch. The conspiracy theory thing was so good because it was different than the NWO. And it's so true. It really is. They had 3-minute matches and they were over like Rover. And, there are guys that have 15, 20-minute matches that people just don't care about 3 weeks later. The EO Shock was a surprise and people wanted the LA Knight to win. You think, hey, you won. Wait, and that's it, exactly. These are things that people wanted. They were begging for EO Sky. They were begging for a big moment for LA Knight. And they got them. And what are they doing? They're complaining about the main event. If you like 75% of the show and the only thing that really pissed you off was, Ryan, Keith, what's going on, buddy? But if you watch the majority of the show and the only thing that really pissed you off was just the Roman Reigns stuff, just the main event, man, it's not a bad show then. It's not a bad show. The show's not trash just because you didn't like the main event. And it's okay if you didn't like the main event. But if you don't like the main event because you didn't like the storytelling, come on. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not watching. How long till they get tired of Cody after he wins the title? Rob, I know you just joined, and unfortunately I'm going to get going in a couple of seconds, but, we talked about it earlier in the show that, the idea of building Cody, taking, this extra year, to make him go for another lap, just all it does is it takes him away from being Super Cena. Because if he wins the title from Roman, he's got to defend it. He can't lose that title soon. He's got to be the guy. That's fair, Ryan. That's totally fair. And you're 100% fall. And it's funny you use the name Hook, and Hook is a mid-carder guy who kind of got over because he was able to channel something that everybody wanted to see. People complain that Roman doesn't defend the belt, then complain when he finally did. That's a great point too. But we talked about Cody. Him doing that year lap makes it so that he's not Super Cena, that he's not beating everybody in his wake. He's not knocking down every heel that comes after him. That's going to make him, everybody tired of him very quickly. So they by giving him an extra year to build himself back up, it's going to make people, seeing him win that championship all the more sweeter. It's going to make them want to see him keep winning, like they did with Bianca Belair. Bianca debuted a couple months before WrestleMania, and people were like, they're doing nothing with Bianca. And then they gave her that whole time to get to where she needed to get, to the point where she got over to be the top woman in the company. Ryan, I love that, dude. That's so cool. Dude, I want to do a full-blown video. I know you just joined, so I mentioned this before, but I want to do a full video about me, like my fig fed and the evolution of it. And I wanted to see if people would give it a crap. The fact that you just said that blows my mind. It makes me feel so much better. I'm going to do it. I'm definitely going to do it. So one of these days, I'm going to get down. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to do like a couple of different, like a breakdown of like where my fig fed went. I'm going to see if I can dig up some old notes. I'm going to, and stuff like that to show everybody. But yeah, I love that, dude. That's so cool. So Ryan, I think that it's indicative upon what I watched. I think that there were a lot of, when I was big into ECW, there was a lot of like no rules main events. A lot of tables matches, stuff like that. Everything almost had a gimmick. And then as WWE became like the only game in town, they pulled away from that a little bit. Like I feel like my booking changed with like it ebbed and flowed with whatever I was watching at the time. But yeah, it was fun. It's a lot of fun. I don't even want to spoil things, but I'll just say that my favorite fig fed I ever had was using all the WWE Jax Bone Cruncher figures. I took every single one that I possibly could, renamed all of them into their own individual new characters, built new stories, and had my own fig fed of my own people, that didn't exist in real life. And that was like my favorite fig fed to book ever, because the only person I was ever placating to was myself. And that was fun because just like much like what Tony Khan does with AEW, he books AEW to mimic what he would want to see in a wrestling show. It's the most fun way to book a show ever. Unfortunately for me, I didn't have people and other people telling me whether it was good or not. The only person who saw it was me. So, oh my God, Fall, forget about it. I mean, fig feds it today, forget about it. Look, I like that though. Look, and that's going to be the thing. If that's what people want to see, that's great. But I mean, look, I don't play with my wrestling figures anymore. I do. I have a weird rule with my collecting that I keep a full roster of WWE guys on hand at all times. Like Raw and SmackDown, I have a full roster of them just as a separate collection. And every once in a while, I'll go in, I'll change the brands when they switch them around and stuff like that. They're in just two different bags. They just bounce around. They don't get played with. They don't get like displayed. They're just there. This is the way I collected for years. I would have my WWE figures, and it would be like what WWE was doing. Everybody who was on TV in WWE was in my fig fed. Whether I use a different figure, to substitute in for guys who didn't have figures yet. If you left WWE, you left and you went to my other fig fed where it was just all the people who weren't in WWE anymore. And then I had a third fig fed of all the people that I made up. So because that's the way I collect, and I keep doing that now. And I'll still go and switch the belts on guys. That's like my oh, you know what? Roman's gonna be, this guy's gonna be champion. This guy's gonna be champion now. These guys gonna be tag champions. That's right. What I'll do. So Roman's got that, has had that belt on him forever. But also I have two separate belts in my fig fed, I guess technically. And I have the other one's on Cody. So I strapped the Rock to Cody earlier than WWE did in my fig fed, technically, if I was really booking it, I guess. Attitude Era, yeah. I think HBK jumped ship from DX to NWO like 3 times. I can see that. I love that, Harry. Keep going with it, man. I wish. Man, if I think that's one of the things I miss the most about being a kid. The one thing I will say is I cannot wait if I do have a kid. Man, I hope they are into wrestling because I'm booking their damn fig feds for them. I don't care what they say. They don't know what's good until they hear what my ideas are. But I can't wait to co-book a fig fed with my kid. It's something that I wish my dad was into. My dad, my dad's always that manly man kind of a thing. Those are dolls. He didn't care that I played with them, but he made it very apparent. He called them dolls. I had a battle royal champion. I had a battle royal on every single card because I had to get everybody on the card, and I had a person who was I had a world championship, and the winner was the battle royal champion. Man, this is bringing back some memories. But yeah, the thing I miss the most about being a kid is having a fig fed. I just did WWF and WCW, so I never got into ECW as a kid. So Ryan, I just put everybody in one company for the longest time. It was just one fig fed of everybody, and then slowly but surely, it bloomed into other things because I was just getting tired of having these other guys, these other figures that I had that were really cool that I wanted to use because they were really cool to do really cool wrestling moves with, like Master of the Universe figures. I wanted to put them in my fig fed, but I couldn't have friggin' Prince, Adam Prince going up against Triple H in the main event. It just didn't make sense, so I had to branch them off into a different thing. God, I can talk about this forever. I'm going to do a whole friggin' live stream about this, or I'm just going to do videos about it. But this is more fun to talk about it like this because you're bringing up different things. Maybe I'll do a complete fig fed live stream one of these days where that's what we'll talk about. Maybe we'll do that next week. Yeah, I like the Toy Biz. I hate it. So here's the thing. So I had the WWE, the LJNs. Then we got the Toy Biz that didn't move. And I liked them because they were kind of similar in scale, but they weren't close enough. The vibrating ones, they weren't in scale with anything. So I disliked them. I had some, but I just didn't like them because they didn't fit into my fig fed. They were I only had a subsection of people that I could interact with them. I was booking in school, social studies, the hell with Ultimate Warrior and facing. Yeah, look, Ryan, I can't tell you how many of my notebooks, in the back of my notebooks were just notes for my fig fed. I had full match scripts from height. Man, I can't believe how much of a loot. No wonder why. Full disclosure, I was just about to unveil something about myself that I don't think anybody needs to know. But no wonder why I really wasn't getting girls back in high school because I had full match scripts written out of different matches that I wanted to do for my fig feds, man. True Sinister, RVD was my top guy for the longest time. So when the fall, when they switched over during the Attitude Era, when they finally switched over, they got comparable to the Bone Crunchers, but they weren't 100% in scale. That always bothered me. One of the things. Ryan, I didn't do that all the time. That was just for a couple of specific matches. But what I used to do is, like if they got close enough, I could put them in the same universe. Um, but yeah, all right, all right. I'm gonna get going though because I'm hungry and I gotta order my food and I'm starving. I can talk about my fig fed for freaking ever. So Ryan, I'm gonna try to figure out a date and time where we can come back and continue this conversation. And we gotta figure out a way to make sure that you're here from the beginning so we can start digging into all these fig fed stuffs. I'm gonna try to go when I go home on Sunday. When I go visit my parents, I'm gonna try to see if I can find my old notebook with some of my booking stuff in it from back in the day. And if I do, I'll bring it. And at the next live stream, Ryan, if you're going to be there, I'll do my best to make sure that I have them to show you some stuff. But yeah, absolutely. Let's do this again. Guys, this was so much fun. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for being here. Watch the, the toy room tour stuff. New video was uploaded this morning. So that's the one that was missing. Ryan, if you didn't, if you saw, I uploaded one on Sunday. And something went wrong. There was no video to it. So it's new. It's up there now. And I'm already working on the next one. So I'll see you guys soon. I'll jump on here soon. Maybe I'll do it a little bit later because it seemed like we got more people around 6:30, 7 o'clock. So maybe I'll try to start at like 6:30 next time. But thank you guys for being here. I'll see you guys soon. And yeah.